Dear Chosen One, pause for a moment, because what I'm about to tell you is going to change how you view everything that just happened around you. You just survived a coordinated humiliation ritual, and your discernment quite literally saved your life. Yes, you. Someone from your past, someone you thought was harmless, just tried to orchestrate your complete social annihilation. They had cameras ready. They had a specific location picked out. They had multiple people working behind the scenes, each playing a role in a malicious plan designed to break you publicly and spiritually. And yet, your intuition, your divine gift of discernment, protected you in ways you may not even fully comprehend yet. Maybe lately you've been second-guessing yourself, questioning whether you overreacted to a situation or a person who came out of nowhere. Maybe you've asked yourself, was I being too sensitive, too guarded, too suspicious? Well, Chosen One, let me tell you, you were not overreacting. In fact, I'm about to prove to you that your gut reaction did exactly what it was meant to do. It saved your life. And here's the part that's going to absolutely blow your mind. While you were quietly trusting your instincts, there were people, yes, multiple people, moving behind the curtain, orchestrating a scheme so cold, so calculated, so spiritually toxic, that when you hear the full scope of their plan, you'll realize just how close you came to total devastation. But before we dive into the depths of this spiritual battle you've just survived, I want to pause for a moment and say this from my heart. To those of you who have been supporting this mission through your time, your comments, your energy, and especially those of you who have given through super thanks, thank you. Your support means more than words can express. It allows us to keep bringing these messages of truth and discernment to the chosen ones across the world. And whether you give or not, know that your presence here is deeply valued. You are seen, you are appreciated, you are part of this chosen community. Now, if you're ready to awaken your discernment even further and to expose the very tactics that nearly trapped you, I invite you to fully engage with this message. And if you're already resonating with what you're hearing, I want you to comment 999 below right now to declare, I am protected, I am chosen, I am awake. Because this is a moment of activation, and I want to see how many of you are rising into this next level of spiritual awareness. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let me start at the beginning, with the setup, because understanding exactly how this trap was laid is crucial to recognizing it when it tries to return. And trust me, Chosen One, once you see the pattern, you'll never be caught off guard again. God's chosen ones, you survived a humiliation ritual. Your discernment saved your life. First, Chosen One, there is something crucial you need to understand about the person who recently reached out to you. You didn't imagine it. Someone from your past has resurfaced, haven't they? Maybe it came as a casual message from an old friend slipping into your DMS after months or even years of silence. Perhaps it was an ex-lover who suddenly wanted to catch up and see how you've been. Or it could have been that co-worker who never paid much attention to you before, now going out of their way to be friendly. Maybe even a distant family member you hadn't spoken to in years, suddenly insisting on reconnecting. And didn't it feel a little too smooth, too coincidental? How many of you heard phrases like, I was just thinking about you, or I really miss those old times, or we should totally hang out soon? But here's the first truth I need you to understand. None of this was a coincidence. Not one word of it was innocent. Do you ever wonder what really triggered this sudden wave of interest? Did they truly wake up with a heart full of nostalgia, suddenly overwhelmed by how much they missed you, or was something more calculated taking place behind the scenes? Let me tell you, Chosen One, the reality is far more sinister. Their contact wasn't born out of genuine care. It wasn't about mending old bridges. The truth is that this person had been activated by a group that has been watching you far longer than you could possibly imagine. Have you considered why now? Why this person? Why this sudden urge to re-enter your life just as you've been stepping into your power? Before we explore who this group is and what they truly wanted from you, let me first validate something that you've likely questioned in your own heart. That subtle unease you felt when this person reached out, that nagging sense that something just wasn't right, wasn't social anxiety. It wasn't you being paranoid or too sensitive. It was your God-given intuition, your spiritual discernment at work. As Proverbs 2:11 says, discretion will protect you and understanding will guard you. What you felt was your spirit warning you of predatory energy lurking behind a familiar face. Because here's the sobering truth. This person was not acting alone. They were the recruiter. Now, let me show you how deep this rabbit hole goes. What this group had planned for you wasn't a casual catch-up or a simple gathering. It was a trap, meticulously staged and designed to capture you both physically and psychologically. Recording equipment had already been arranged. A specific location had been chosen. They didn't want a friendly chat. They wanted evidence. They wanted material they could later twist and weaponize against you. Have you asked yourself, why did they insist on meeting in that particular place? Why did they push for that weekend, that event, that unfamiliar setting? The answer is chilling. The person who reached out to you was merely the front line. Behind them stood a collective, an entire pack operating like wolves, and you, chosen one, were their prey. These people are not your average bullies from high school. They are something far more calculated and dangerous. They operate with a mob mentality where no single individual may feel particularly powerful, but together they act as if they're invincible. Have you ever noticed how certain groups seem to thrive on tearing others down? How they gain a twisted sense of unity from shared cruelty? Ecclesiastes 4:12 warns us, though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. They know this principle well, but they use it for evil, banding together to execute group humiliation tactics. For them, success means standing on the broken backs of others. Power is measured by how thoroughly they can publicly destroy someone's dignity. And when they saw you, chosen one, rising in confidence and discernment, you became the target that their twisted egos needed to conquer. Consider the story of Meghan Markle. When she stepped into the global spotlight as a royal, a wave of media manipulation, smear campaigns, and coordinated attacks followed her. Why? Because her grace, independence, and refusal to conform threatened entrenched power structures. This is precisely the dynamic many chosen ones face. You radiate growth and authenticity in a world that rewards conformity and mediocrity, and that terrifies those whose power depends on control. But why you? Why now? The truth is, chosen one, you've been evolving. You've been stepping boldly into a new, elevated version of yourself, one that shines with a light that cannot be dimmed. As Matthew 5:16 reminds us, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. And while the righteous rejoice in the light, the wicked seek to snuff it out. Your recent transformation didn't go unnoticed. Where some would celebrate your growth, these individuals saw it as a threat to their own fragile identities. They knew they could not control you anymore, and that made you dangerous in their eyes. Their strategy was chillingly precise. They didn't want to humiliate you casually in a coffee shop or embarrass you during an ordinary conversation. They sought a controlled environment, an unfamiliar place where you would be vulnerable. Have you wondered why they suggested a group trip, a weekend getaway, a wedding, or a house party hosted by someone you barely knew? This was no innocent invitation. It was a psychological tactic. In a foreign setting, you are out of your element. You rely on them for transportation. You don't know the layout or the exits. Your usual allies aren't present. If something were to happen, if they provoked you or staged a confrontation, they would control the narrative. They would control the evidence. Look at the story of Monica Lewinsky. She was manipulated into meetings and situations by those who later used the recordings and narratives against her on a global scale. The tactic is not new. It is a modern-day humiliation ritual cloaked in false friendship. Another example is Britney Spears. Isolated, removed from her familiar circles, controlled environments were used to erode her agency and damage her public image. These are not coincidences. They are deliberate strategies used to dismantle powerful individuals under the guise of concern or friendship. In moments like this, your discernment becomes your greatest shield. Isaiah 30:21 promises, "Whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you saying, 'This is the way, walk in it.'" You heard that voice, didn't you? That inner warning urging you to pause, to question, to resist the urge to comply blindly. And thank God you did. Because had you accepted that invitation without listening to your instincts, you could have walked straight into their trap. Chosen one, you were being tested, but not by chance, by design. The moment you began to ascend, you also began to attract the attention of those whose power depends on keeping others beneath them. Think of Whitney Houston. As her star rose, so too did the number of people seeking to exploit her vulnerabilities and isolate her from those who truly cared. The higher you climb, the more intentional your discernment must become. So, why do you think your spirit recoiled when that invitation came? Why did that unease linger, even when your mind tried to rationalize it away? Could it be that your spiritual senses are becoming sharper for a reason? Could it be that God is preparing you for even greater battles and equipping you with the wisdom to win them? Psalm 119:66 prays, "Teach me knowledge and good judgment, for I trust your commands." You are being taught, chosen one. Every test, every uneasy interaction, every avoided trap is sharpening your ability to see what others cannot. And it is this discernment that just saved your life, whether you realize it yet or not. Now, chosen one, here comes revelation number 2. The location they suggested was not chosen at random. It was carefully selected for one primary reason, because it was the perfect place to film you. And what they intended to capture on that film was not innocent footage of a fun night out. No, their goal was to get you into an extremely vulnerable state first, one in which they could manipulate both your behavior and the story they would tell about you afterward. Let me ask you, have you ever wondered why they were so insistent on that specific venue? Why that particular house, that out-of-town trip, that unfamiliar private space, or that gathering you almost didn't feel comfortable attending? What if I told you that behind their warm invitations and seemingly casual plans, a far more sinister conversation had already taken place? I can almost hear it even now. Someone whispering, "I don't feel well." And another voice calmly responding, "Just keep recording." You see, chosen one, this was never about creating happy memories. It was about capturing damaging evidence. Evidence they could later use to destroy your reputation, undermine your credibility, and publicly humiliate you, all for their own twisted gratification. But to capture this footage, they needed to break through your defenses first. They needed to make you vulnerable, and their methods were diabolically calculated. Have you asked yourself why certain people around you always seem to push for just one more drink, or encourage you to just relax and have fun? Why certain conversations always seem to veer toward painful topics that stir your emotions? The reason is simple. They had a plan. Step 1, lower your defenses. They would encourage you to drink beyond your comfort level, or perhaps introduce other substances, all under the guise of celebration or friendship. Their goal was simple: impair your judgment. We see this tactic used repeatedly in both modern celebrity scandals and ancient power plays. Consider the story of Samson and Delilah. Judges 16:19 tells us, having put him to sleep on her lap, she called for someone to shave off the 7 braids of his hair, and so began to subdue him, and his strength left him. Just like Delilah lulled Samson into a state of vulnerability, these individuals sought to dull your spiritual and emotional strength so they could exploit you. Step 2. Trigger you emotionally. Once your guard was down, they would systematically bring up old wounds, past betrayals, unresolved arguments, or personal insecurities they knew would cut deep. Have you noticed how certain people seem to know exactly what to say to provoke you? This is not by accident. They had rehearsed this. Their aim was to push you into an emotional reaction, whether tears, rage, or deep frustration. Once you reacted, they would move swiftly to the next phase. Step 3. Film it. But they weren't after neutral footage. They were after highly edited footage. They would intentionally provoke you, then capture only the parts that made you appear unstable, irrational, or crazy. They would conveniently omit the context, the systematic button pushing, the emotional setup, the manipulation that led to your reaction. Their final goal: to weaponize this footage for complete social destruction. They wanted a video they could circulate among your mutual friends, post on social media, or use as blackmail, turning you into a cautionary tale, an object of mockery, a person whose credibility would be shattered beyond repair. This tactic has been used time and again. Consider the infamous example of Britney Spears. Through years of manipulated footage and edited paparazzi clips, an entire narrative was constructed to make her appear unstable, all while omitting the relentless harassment that drove her to those moments. Another example is Monica Lewinsky, whose private interactions were recorded and selectively leaked to craft a scandal that consumed her public life. More recently, Amber Heard and Johnny Depp's legal battles showcased how recorded material can be edited and manipulated to sway public opinion and destroy reputations. Chosen one, can you see the pattern? Do you understand now why you felt that unsettling pull in your spirit when this invitation was first extended? Why something inside you hesitated, even when your mind tried to convince you it was just a harmless get-together? That was the Holy Spirit warning you. John 16:13 assures us, "But when He, the Spirit of truth, comes, He will guide you into all the truth." The Spirit was guiding you, alerting you that this was no safe space. This was a trap designed to rob you of your voice, your dignity, and your standing in the community. And this is not just theory. Look at the story of Dave Chappelle. After walking away from a lucrative deal, the media narrative painted him as crazy and unstable. A carefully constructed smear campaign rooted in half-truths and selective storytelling. Why? Because he refused to conform to the system that sought to control him. The same forces that targeted him exist in every industry, every community, and yes, sometimes even in the circles closest to you. Chosen one, your enemies don't want to fight you openly. They know that in a fair, truthful setting, they cannot defeat you. They cannot match your wisdom, your discernment, or your divine protection. So instead, they plot in the shadows. They engineer scenarios where they can manufacture your downfall and then present it to the world as truth. Proverbs 26:24-25 warns us, "Enemies disguise themselves with their lips, but in their hearts they harbor deceit. Though their speech is charming, do not believe them, for 7 abominations fill their hearts." The very ones smiling at you were planning to capture your destruction on camera. So I must ask, do you understand now why your discernment matters more than ever? Why guarding your environment and your energy is not optional but essential. Why saying no to certain invitations is a powerful spiritual act. You were not being antisocial, you were being protected. And that protection just spared you from a plot so vile that its aftermath could have haunted you for years. Chosen one, know this. Your instincts are sharpening because your assignment is escalating. The more influence you are destined to carry, the more sophisticated the attacks against you will become. 2 Corinthians 2:11 reminds us, in order that Satan might not outwit us, for we are not unaware of his schemes. You are no longer unaware. You see the game now. You feel the undercurrents beneath the surface. And because of that, because you listened, you just dodged a spiritual ambush that could have derailed your purpose. Ready for revelation number 3, chosen one? Prepare yourself, because this is the part that will show you just how deep this threat truly ran. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment scheme. No, this was a long game. One they've been preparing for months, and in some of your cases, for years. Yes, they've been watching you, closely, quietly, obsessively. They've been studying you like a subject under a microscope, learning your patterns, your triggers, your emotional vulnerabilities. Not out of curiosity, but with the precise intention of using that knowledge to tear you down when the time was right. Have you ever stopped to consider how they knew exactly when you'd be free? How they accidentally bumped into you at your favorite cafe or gym? How they seemed to know who you had recently connected with, or what had been stressing you out? This was no accident. These individuals and the group backing them were collecting intelligence on you like a military operation. They knew your schedule. They tracked your favorite spots. They observed the people you confide in. They learned what brings you joy and what ignites your anger. Like seasoned operatives, they built a profile on you, all to engineer your downfall with ruthless precision. Let me ask, have you noticed the pattern of strange coincidences in your life lately? Those uncanny run-ins with people you didn't expect to see, acquaintances who seem to know just a little too much about your current situation. The subtle comments that made you pause and wonder, how did they even know that? Or perhaps the growing feeling of being watched, of unseen eyes following your every move. And yet, like many chosen ones, you likely brushed it off. You told yourself, I must be overthinking, or I'm being paranoid. Let me tell you now, you weren't. You weren't paranoid. You were being surveilled. Jesus warned us of this kind of covert wickedness. In Luke 8:17, he says, "For nothing is hidden that will not be made manifest, nor is anything secret that will not be known and come to light." Their surveillance and scheming, no matter how carefully hidden, were always destined to be exposed. And chosen one, here's where the story takes an absolutely miraculous turn. Because despite all their planning, despite all their surveillance, despite the fact that multiple individuals were working together with a singular focus to bring you down, something happened that none of them anticipated. Something they couldn't control, couldn't predict, and couldn't neutralize. Your spiritual discernment and divine protection activated at precisely the right moment. Consider this. The great abolitionist Harriet Tubman was hunted relentlessly. Slave owners placed bounties on her head. Yet despite the surveillance, the traps and the dangers, she led countless people to freedom without being captured. What saved her? Divine guidance. She often spoke of listening to the voice of God, of intuitively knowing when danger was near and when to change direction. Chosen one, the same God who guided Harriet is guiding you. Think also of Nelson Mandela. During his years of imprisonment and surveillance, every word he spoke and every move he made was monitored. Yet, in the end, the oppressors could not break his spirit. His purpose was too great and his discernment too sharp. He rose from the ashes of captivity to become a global symbol of freedom and resilience. And like him, chosen one, Your story is not ending in defeat. It is rising into triumph. But here's the question you must ask yourself now. Why did their plan fail? How did a group of people, armed with months or years of intelligence, ultimately miscalculate your response? The answer is found in Isaiah 54:17. No weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue which rises against you in judgment you shall condemn. The weapons were formed, the plans were drawn, the surveillance was executed meticulously. But they forgot one critical factor. You are chosen. You are covered by divine favor. Your discernment is not of this world. It is a spiritual gift forged in the fires of your trials. A modern example of this divine disruption can be seen in the life of Edward Snowden. Under immense surveillance by one of the most powerful intelligence networks in the world, he managed to expose global injustices and escape their grasp. His discernment and ability to act in the right moment protected him when the odds were stacked against him. Just as Snowden evaded the grip of systems designed to silence him, so too have you evaded the grasp of those who sought to silence you, chosen one. And here's where your story becomes truly remarkable. Not only did you survive this coordinated attack, you exposed it, you saw through it. Your instincts rang loud and clear, urging you to pull back, to say no, to not walk into their trap. And by doing so, you didn't just protect yourself. You revealed the true nature of those who had masked their intentions behind fake smiles and false kindness. Psalm 34:7 declares, "The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him and delivers them." Chosen one, the angels were encamped around you. Your intuition was the voice of heaven guarding your path. So now I must ask, how will you move forward, knowing that you've just survived a coordinated psychological and spiritual attack? Will you allow this experience to deepen your discernment even further? Will you now trust the voice within you that knows things beyond the surface? Will you finally accept that you are not merely living an ordinary life? You are walking a chosen path, one that comes with both supernatural protection and supernatural responsibility. Look at the story of J.K. Rowling. Before she became the celebrated author of Harry Potter, she faced relentless opposition, rejection, and targeted criticism. Many underestimated her, dismissed her, even sought to discourage her from pursuing her gift. But she persevered, shielded by inner conviction and unwavering purpose. You too, chosen one, are called to persevere. Because no matter how long they study you, no matter how carefully they surveil you, if you remain rooted in discernment and divine guidance, they will never succeed in extinguishing your light. Chosen one, take a moment and breathe this in. Despite everything that was stacked against you, despite months, even years of surveillance, despite a coordinated group effort to orchestrate your downfall, you didn't fall for it. Do you understand how miraculous that is? You walked straight through a minefield without a single step out of place. And you did it not because someone spelled it out for you, but because your spirit knew. Something deep inside you began screaming, warning you with an urgency that couldn't be silenced. Your intuition kicked into overdrive. Your body responded. Your stomach tightened. Your gut churned. Your chest grew heavy. And that is no ordinary feeling, chosen one. Science now tells us the gut is literally your second brain, a neurological command center that God designed to signal when something is wrong. You were receiving divine alerts from every fiber of your being. Have you stopped to reflect on how loud those signals became? Why they grew impossible to ignore as the situation drew closer? Could it be that you were being supernaturally protected in that very moment? Romans 8:14 reminds us, "For those who are led by the Spirit of God are the children of God." You were being led, chosen one, not by fear, but by the Spirit of truth that resides within you. You heard the warning clearly, and you obeyed it. Think about it. How did you first start to notice something was off? Maybe it was the way this person, who seemed so eager to reconnect, began asking deeply personal, probing questions, not the kind of friendly curiosity that builds connection, but the kind designed to extract information, to assess your emotional state and test your weaknesses. And did you notice how, when you tried to ask them questions in return, they would suddenly deflect or change the subject? Another red flag waving boldly before your eyes. Or perhaps you noticed how they were pushing just a little too hard for you to commit to their plan. Why was there such urgency? Why were they so invested in getting you to agree to that location, that date, that time? Why was flexibility not an option? When someone insists on controlling the who, what, when, and where, it is rarely about genuine friendship. It is about orchestrating control. Proverbs 27:6 offers wisdom here. Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful. You were being kissed by an enemy, chosen one, and your spirit knew it. Let's pause for a moment and consider a real-world example. Consider Princess Diana. When she began questioning the narratives around her and listening more to her intuition, she noticed the subtle shifts, the calculated moves of those who wished to control her. She later spoke about the unsettling feeling of being watched, manipulated, and isolated. Her discernment, though not always heeded in time, revealed the danger around her. Like Diana, chosen one, your heightened awareness saved you. And the signs kept adding up, didn't they? Maybe their enthusiasm felt just a bit too performative, overly rehearsed, lacking genuine warmth. Perhaps their smiles didn't quite reach their eyes. Their tone of voice didn't match the words they spoke. Or their physical energy felt predatory, an undercurrent of aggression masked by artificial charm. Have you asked yourself, why did my body react so strongly even when my mind wanted to be polite? Why couldn't I shake that uneasiness, no matter how much I rationalized it? Because that uneasiness was not social anxiety, it was spiritual discernment. Ephesians 5:15-17 exhorts us, "Be very careful then how you live, not as unwise but as wise, making the most of every opportunity, because the days are evil. Therefore do not be foolish, but understand what the Lord's will is." You weren't being foolish. You were walking in wisdom, tuned into the Spirit's frequency, even when those around you tried to drown it out. History is filled with chosen individuals who survived because they trusted their inner knowing. Corrie ten Boom, a Dutch Christian who hid Jews from the Nazis during World War II, often recounted how her spirit would feel heavy when danger was near, prompting her to alter her plans and avoid capture. That same spirit whispers to you, chosen one, in moments where your very survival is on the line. And let us not forget Tyler Perry. Before becoming the media mogul he is today, he faced manipulation and exploitation attempts from those who saw his rising potential. He later spoke about learning to trust that still, small voice within, a voice that protected him from contracts, relationships, and situations designed to derail his purpose. You too are rising, and that voice within you. It is not an accident, it is an anointing. Chosen one, hear this clearly. Your discernment just saved your life. This wasn't about a casual decision. This was about your destiny. The enemy knew what was at stake, which is why the attack was so calculated. But no amount of planning can outmaneuver a child of God who is in tune with the Holy Spirit. 1 John 4:4 declares, "You, dear children, are from God and have overcome them, because the one who is in you is greater than the one who is in the world." You have overcome. Your spirit recognized the setup. Your gut sounded the alarm. And your obedience to that inner warning has preserved your path. But chosen one, there's an even deeper layer to this story, one that many around you may never fully grasp, a layer that transcends the physical realm entirely. Now we're stepping into territory that may sound almost unbelievable to the unawakened. but I need you to stay with me. This will explain why their attack on you felt so intense, so calculated, and yes, so wicked. You see, this wasn't just about petty jealousy or social drama. No, what you were caught in was a manifestation of spiritual warfare, playing out visibly before your eyes in the physical realm. Have you ever asked yourself, why did this situation feel darker than anything you've faced before? Why did the energy around these people feel heavy, toxic, and suffocating? Why did it feel as though something unseen was driving their actions? The reason is chilling. You weren't merely being targeted for humiliation. You were being spiritually offered up as a sacrifice. These individuals had aligned themselves, consciously or unconsciously, with forces that feed on chaos, destruction, and the dimming of divine light. And you, chosen one, you are a vessel of that very light. You are transformation incarnate. You are elevation in motion. You are the disruption to the cycles they are trapped in. Think about this. These people are not operating from a place of creativity or true power. Their lives have devolved into spiritual limbo. They cannot create, so they seek to destroy. They cannot build, so they tear others down. They cannot elevate, so they try to drag others into the pit with them. Why? Because your ascension is a mirror exposing their stagnation. As Ephesians 6:12 reminds us, for our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. You were in a battle far greater than what met the eye. Consider the story of Martin Luther King Jr. The forces aligned against him were not merely political, they were spiritual. His message of love, unity, and justice exposed the darkness within entrenched systems of hate. And as he rose higher, so did the ferocity of the attacks against him. You too, chosen one, embody a frequency that unsettles the darkness around you. That is why the attack felt so unrelenting. And so, they summoned something beyond themselves to assist in your downfall. Whether knowingly or through reckless spiritual alignment, they invited dark energies into the equation. Have you ever wondered why their obsession with you seemed almost unnatural? Why their desire to see you fall was so consuming? Because they weren't just acting out of personal malice, they were being driven by forces that sought to extinguish your light. But what they didn't count on was this: you are a creature of transformation. You are a creature of resurrection. They thought they were dealing with someone they could break. Instead, they found themselves contending with someone who operates under divine protection, a force they could neither see nor comprehend. Look at the life of Oprah Winfrey. Early in her career, she faced smear campaigns and attempts to sabotage her platform. But with unwavering faith and discernment, she rose above every attack. Her testimony reveals that her trust in divine timing and guidance shielded her in ways no earthly power could. The same protection has been covering you, and even if you did end up attending their event, and some of you did, you were protected in real time. Think about it. The ritual they had meticulously planned fell apart. Their trap, so carefully constructed, unraveled before their eyes. Have you asked yourself why certain key players suddenly backed out? Why the person assigned to film lost their nerve? Why the location changed at the last minute? Why illness or an unexpected event kept you from attending or staying? That was no accident. That was no stroke of luck. That was divine intervention in motion. Psalm 91:11 declares, "For he will command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." Your angels were on assignment. The enemy thought they were playing chess, but they were playing against forces they couldn't see, couldn't understand, and certainly couldn't defeat. Consider Nelson Mandela again. His enemies planned for his permanent silence. But unseen forces orchestrated outcomes they never anticipated, leading not to his destruction, but to his ultimate triumph. The same principle is at work in your story, Chosen One. And now comes the most satisfying part of this story. What they planned for you is already beginning to happen to them. Think about it. Remember how they wanted to humiliate you publicly, to expose your private moments for cheap entertainment, to tarnish your reputation with carefully manipulated footage. Well, brace yourself, because the principle of divine justice is in motion. Galatians 6:7 warns us, "Do not be deceived. God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows." Everything they sent toward you is now boomeranging back with compound interest. Cosmic justice is about to unfold. We're talking about the public exposure of their own dirty secrets, their private shame becoming public knowledge, their reputations imploding, not because of your retaliation, but because of the energy they themselves unleashed. The very trap they laid for you is becoming the snare that will entangle them. Look at the downfall of Harvey Weinstein. For years he wielded power in secret, manipulating, humiliating, destroying others behind closed doors. But when divine justice moved, everything hidden was dragged into the light, and he fell by the weight of his own sins. Another example is Bernie Madoff, whose carefully constructed illusion collapsed under the weight of his own deception. Public shame became his legacy. Chosen One, I keep hearing this phrase in my spirit: failure to launch. Their spiritual attacks, their manipulations in the physical realm, their elaborate schemes, all of it is destined to fail spectacularly. Not only will they fail to destroy you, but in the process, they will expose themselves for exactly who they are. Job 5:12 promises us, "He thwarts the plans of the crafty, so that their hands achieve no success." The crafting was elaborate, but the success was always an illusion. Let me tell you something about yourself, Chosen One, something you may not have fully grasped yet. You were not randomly selected for this attack. Do you truly understand that? Out of all the souls in this world, you were targeted precisely because of who you are, what you represent, and the undeniable spiritual authority you carry. This wasn't accidental. This wasn't coincidence. This was strategic and deeply spiritual. Have you ever asked yourself why certain people seem irrationally obsessed with you? Why groups form alliances just to bring you down? Why your mere presence triggers discomfort in those who harbor hidden darkness? The answer is simple. You carry a power they can sense, but they cannot comprehend. You have been gifted with the ability to release spiritual forces that work on your behalf, moving in unseen ways to dismantle the very traps set against you. Your victory isn't theoretical. It isn't wishful thinking. It is prophetic. It has already been written in the heavens. Isaiah 46:10 declares, "I make known the end from the beginning, from ancient times, what is still to come. I say, my purpose will stand, and I will do all that I please." Your victory is already woven into the fabric of your destiny. But here's where the calling of the chosen may challenge your heart. Sometimes being chosen means that you become spiritual bait. You walk into dangerous situations, not because you are reckless, but because your presence there serves a greater divine purpose. You are the one strong enough to withstand what others cannot. You are the one who, through your discernment and spiritual covering, prevents harm from falling upon the innocent. You are the barrier between darkness and those who are not yet equipped to face it. Think of Corrie ten Boom once more. She risked her life to shelter the vulnerable, stepping into grave danger with the full awareness that she might become a target. Yet, through her sacrifice, countless lives were saved. Chosen One, you didn't just survive this humiliation ritual for your own protection. You survived it to break this cycle for others. Your discernment exposed this group's agenda, sending a spiritual shockwave that disrupted their operations. You became the unseen shield that stopped them from ensnaring their next victim. And consider this. Your survival served as a powerful wake-up call to others who were entangled in this toxic web. Among them was someone desperate to prove their loyalty to the group, so desperate they were willing to sacrifice you as an offering of allegiance. But your resilience, your refusal to crumble, forced them to confront the darkness they were about to participate in. You are the disruptor they never saw coming. There is something about your energy, chosen one, that threatens their entire collective identity. Have you wondered why your growth seems to unsettle people who once cheered for your mediocrity? Why your confidence provokes such hostility from those who used to tolerate you? Because your transformation exposes the emptiness of their foundation. They have built their self-worth on the false belief that they are superior to others. Your rise shatters that illusion. John 1:5 reminds us, "The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it." Your light is unmasking their shadows. Think of Nelson Mandela again. Upon his release, his grace and dignity deeply unsettled those who had vilified him. His presence forced oppressors to reckon with their own moral bankruptcy. Similarly, your spiritual elevation has become a mirror, reflecting the truth of who these people really are. And here is a chilling truth you must understand. They needed witnesses to your destruction, not simply for entertainment, but to bond their group through shared guilt. When people participate together in destroying another, they become complicit in one another's darkness. They create a chain of shame that binds them together. Their hope was that your humiliation would become the glue that solidified their toxic alliance. Look at the example of the Salem witch trials. Communities bound themselves through collective acts of accusation and condemnation. Shared guilt created a unity rooted in fear and darkness. The group that targeted you was seeking to create the same dynamic. But because you did not fall, chosen one, their entire scheme is unraveling. But here's the truly disturbing part. Not all of these people hated you personally. Some of them were simply swept up in the group dynamic, too afraid to speak out, too terrified to be the next target if they defended you. Have you ever sensed hesitation in someone's eyes? A look that said, "I know this is wrong, but I'm too scared to stop it." That is the insidious power of mob mentality. Proverbs 29:25 warns us, "Fear of man will prove to be a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is kept safe." You trusted in the Lord, and it kept you safe even when those around you fell into the snare of fear. And this exposes an even deeper spiritual truth about how such groups select their victims. They choose those who represent what they could have become if only they had made better choices. You, chosen one, are living proof that transformation is possible, that growth is real, that spiritual awakening is attainable, and that truth terrifies them. Consider the life of Maya Angelou. Her voice and her poetry embodied resilience, dignity, and transcendence, everything that those trapped in cycles of bitterness and shame could not bear to confront. Her light forced others to face their own shadows. You carry that same disruptive energy. Chosen one, here's a truth you need to understand at the core of your being. Your success story was dismantling their victim narrative, and that's why you became their target. Your very existence, your light, your resilience, your refusal to fold despite every challenge life threw your way, that was destroying the fragile stories they told themselves and others about why they couldn't succeed. You, walking forward in your purpose, was living proof that their excuses were lies. And so they had to try to destroy the evidence, which meant coming after you. Have you ever asked why they seemed so determined to tear you down just when you were rising? Why the attacks intensified precisely when you began to live your best life, despite adversity? Because you represented everything they refused to confront in themselves. You made it impossible for them to hide behind the narrative that the world is too hard, that life is unfair, that certain people are simply doomed to failure. Psalm 23:5 declares, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows." Your overflowing cup was unbearable to them, and they sought to shatter it. Now let's go deeper. The group that targeted you didn't act randomly. They operate within a very specific hierarchy, and understanding this structure will give you clarity about why their attack was so calculated and why it involved so many moving pieces. You were up against an organized machine, not a disorganized mob. At the top, you have the puppet masters, the ones who never get their hands dirty but control everything from behind the scenes. These are often individuals with influence, resources, or connections that the rest of the group craves. Their power lies in subtlety. They manipulate through whispers, favors, and unspoken promises. Consider the infamous example of Rupert Murdoch. Though not directly involved in every media controversy, his influence shaped narratives behind the scenes for decades. Then come the lieutenants, the actual planners and coordinators. These are often the most psychologically damaged members of the group. They feed off the illusion of power that comes from getting others to act on their behalf. They are the master manipulators. Think of historical figures like Joseph Goebbels, who crafted entire systems of propaganda, manipulating the masses to serve a darker agenda. In your situation, these individuals choreographed the timing, the locations, the triggers, all to maximize the impact of their attack. Next, you encounter the foot soldiers, the ones who make direct contact and carry out the manipulation. They are the bait, the ones who slide into your messages, who arrange the meeting, who feign concern and friendship. But here's the saddest part. They are motivated by desperation. They crave belonging so deeply that they are willing to sacrifice others, including you, to secure their place in the group. This mirrors the dynamic seen in cults throughout history, where lower members commit horrific acts simply to gain acceptance. Think of Charles Manson's followers, who acted not out of personal malice, but out of a twisted desire for belonging. Finally, you have the audience, those who may not actively participate, but provide the validation and voyeuristic thrill that fuels the entire operation. They cheer from the sidelines. They consume the drama. They spread the rumors. They are the invisible crowd that gives the whole ritual its power. Consider how the Roman Colosseum operated. Spectators drove the bloodshed, reveling in the destruction of others from the safety of their seats. Your modern enemies were counting on the same dynamic. Now, here's the truly sick part. Every level of this hierarchy gets something different from your destruction. The puppet masters maintain their elite position by proving they can orchestrate complex social destruction. The lieutenants feed their broken egos by manipulating multiple people into a coordinated attack. The foot soldiers gain temporary acceptance and protection from becoming the next target themselves. And the audience gets cheap entertainment and the vicarious thrill of watching someone else's life unravel, without having to bear any direct responsibility. But here's the part they never accounted for, chosen one. Your spiritual protection operates outside their entire hierarchy. They were playing political games and practicing psychological warfare, but you were standing under the covering of divine authority that no human positioning could touch. Isaiah 54:17 declares, "No weapon that is fashioned against you shall succeed, and you shall refute every tongue that rises against you in judgment." They didn't understand this power. They brought human weapons into a spiritual war, and that is why their elaborate, multi-person, carefully crafted attack completely fell apart when it collided with your discernment and divine protection. Consider the life of Malala Yousafzai. An entire hierarchy of forces conspired to silence her voice for daring to advocate for girls' education. Yet, protected by divine purpose and inner resilience, she not only survived, but rose to global prominence. Their weapons failed, just as yours did. And here's what I want you to reflect on now. How many layers of protection had to be activated for their plan to crumble so spectacularly? How many moments were divinely orchestrated to shield you without you even realizing it at the time? John 10:28 reminds us, "I give them eternal life, and they shall never perish. No one will snatch them out of my hand." You were held firmly in the hand of God throughout this entire ordeal. Chosen one, you didn't just walk away from this attack, you exposed the entire hierarchy behind it, and that exposure is already unraveling their alliances. The very structure that they believed made them invincible is now cracking from the inside out. Because no earthly network, no matter how complex, can withstand the force of a chosen one aligned with divine truth. Now, chosen one, understanding this entire structure is absolutely crucial, not just for processing what happened, but for recognizing future threats. You need to know something very important. This attack was not some isolated incident. It was likely part of a larger pattern. If you look back, there have probably been other attempts, some subtle, some overt, some that succeeded in shaking you for a time, others you evaded without even fully realizing it. But now that you've seen through the mechanics of how this spiritual manipulation works, you are about to become exponentially more protected moving forward. Let me ask, can you think of times when someone from your past suddenly reappeared with an oddly urgent interest in your life? Can you recall moments when you were pushed to attend an unfamiliar event, or felt pressured to go somewhere where you'd have no easy way out? These were not random social situations, chosen one. These were tests, attempts by forces that operate through people who may not even fully grasp what they're being used for. Here's your survival guide for future attempts. Memorize it, live it. It will become one of your most powerful shields as you continue your spiritual ascent. First, watch for the bait person. Anyone from your past who suddenly reappears out of nowhere with urgent invitations or an intense desire to reconnect, especially if they've been completely absent during your recent growth phases, is a massive red flag. Why now? Why this urgency? Why during this season of your elevation? Matthew 10:16 reminds us, "I am sending you out like sheep among wolves. Therefore be as shrewd as snakes and as innocent as doves." You must be discerning. This is a battlefield, not a casual social reunion. Second, notice location pressure. Be hyper-aware of any situation where you're being pushed to commit to unfamiliar environments, especially places where you'd be dependent on others for transportation or accommodation. Why the insistence on this specific location? Why the rush? Why the lack of flexibility? If the setting makes you feel trapped or out of your element, trust that feeling. The enemy's traps are often geographical. Isolating you physically is the first step to attempting to isolate you spiritually and emotionally. Third, trust the energy red. If someone's friendliness feels forced, performative, or predatory, trust it immediately. Have you ever felt a person's energy was off, even when they smiled and spoke kindly? That is not paranoia. It is your discernment operating as an early warning system. Galatians 5:16 tells us, "So I say, walk by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the flesh." Walking by the Spirit makes you sensitive to energy that words alone cannot mask. Lean into that sensitivity. It is a divine gift. Fourth, always question the asymmetry. Anyone who probes deeply into your life but deflects or stonewalls when you ask about theirs is displaying classic predatory behavior. Manipulators seek data, not genuine connection. They want to know how to push your buttons and where your weaknesses lie. If conversations feel one-sided, step back immediately. Protect your sacred information. Fifth, honor your gut reactions. If a situation feels off, it is off. Your intuition has now been proven life-saving. Never apologize for trusting it, even if others think you're overreacting. Time and time again, history has shown that those who honor their instincts avoid catastrophe. Think of Rosa Parks. Her refusal to give up her seat was led not just by intellect, but by a deep internal knowing that the time for standing was now. Your inner knowing is just as powerful. Sixth, identify the hierarchy. If you sense that someone is trying to recruit you into group activities, step back and observe. Who are they trying to impress? Who is quietly calling the shots behind the scenes? Who do others defer to without question? Recognizing this structure early allows you to dismantle it internally, refusing to give it power over you. Now here's the beautiful irony. What your enemies couldn't predict, what they never saw coming, is that their attack on you actually accelerated your spiritual evolution. They intended to destroy you, but instead they forced you to awaken to a whole new level of discernment and power. You walked into their trap as one version of yourself, and you emerged braver, wiser, more aware of spiritual realities than ever before. Look at the story of Malala Yousafzai once more. After surviving an assassination attempt, she became a global voice for education and justice. Her enemies intended to silence her, but instead amplified her purpose. The same principle is at work in your life. They wanted you to feel shame, but you discovered unshakable self-trust. Psalm 34 verse 5 says, "Those who look to him are radiant. Their faces are never covered with shame." You radiate now, chosen one. They wanted you to feel isolated, but instead you learned to rely on divine guidance. Proverbs 3:5-6 assures us, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight." You walk straighter now, aligned with your divine path. They wanted you to feel devalued, but you now understand that you are someone worth attacking, because you carry a frequency and power that disrupts darkness. They targeted you precisely because you are a threat to their control. They wanted you to feel broken, but you have proven yourself unbreakable. Like Viktor Frankl, who survived the horrors of concentration camps and emerged with a message of hope, meaning and resilience, you too now carry a testimony that will strengthen others. Chosen one, hear me clearly. You passed a test that many people never even realize they are taking. Do you truly understand how rare this is? You just walked through a spiritual fire designed to break your spirit, destroy your reputation, and dismantle your purpose. And you not only survived, you emerged stronger, wiser, and more aligned than ever. Do you see now why the attack was so vicious? Why it felt so coordinated? It was tailored specifically for your destruction, and yet you prevailed. Have you considered what this means? By surviving this humiliation ritual, you have now activated a level of spiritual protection and discernment that will serve you for the rest of your life. You are no longer operating at the same spiritual frequency you were before this battle. The veil has been lifted, the patterns have been exposed, and your spiritual armor has been fortified through the fire. And here's where the impact extends far beyond you. Your survival is not just a personal victory, it is a cosmic shift, one that is now rippling through the spiritual realm and affecting everyone within your orbit. By refusing to be broken, you have broken the hold this group had over others. By standing in your discernment, you have activated a shield of protection for future targets, many of whom may never even know how close they came to spiritual destruction because your courage intercepted the attack. Think of Harriet Tubman again. Every life she helped free didn't just represent a personal victory, it disrupted entire networks of oppression. In surviving and resisting the spiritual trap laid for you, you have now disrupted this group's hierarchy. You've exposed the weakness in their system, you've shown others what to watch for, and you've made it significantly harder for these same tactics to succeed again. The person who tried to use you as their entry ticket into this toxic group. They are about to learn a devastating lesson about the price of betraying someone who walks under divine protection. Betrayal against a chosen one is not forgotten in the spiritual realm. Psalm 105:15 declares, "Do not touch my anointed ones, do my prophets no harm." The cost of touching what God has anointed is steep, and that price is now being collected. And the group itself, the ones who thought they could add your light to their collection of extinguished flames, they are about to discover a harsh truth. Some lights cannot be dimmed. In fact, some lights only burn brighter under pressure. Think of Malala Yousafzai again. An attempt to silence her voice only amplified it globally. The same will be true for you. The attacks you endured will now elevate your authority, credibility, and spiritual presence far beyond what they imagined. Chosen one, your victory sends a loud, unmistakable message throughout the spiritual realm. This chosen one is protected. This chosen one is awake. This chosen one cannot be touched. Can you feel that truth resonating in your spirit? This is not about arrogance. It is about alignment. You now walk with an authority that was tested in fire and found unshakable. Isaiah 41:10 reminds us, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." You are upheld, and that reality is sending ripples that will reach every enemy who once plotted against you. Every person who underestimated your spiritual authority will now be forced to confront it. Every force that thought it could manipulate or use you for its own dark purposes is being exposed and dismantled. Consider the life of Nelson Mandela once more. After enduring decades of oppression and imprisonment, his release didn't signal his defeat. It marked the beginning of a global movement for justice and reconciliation. Your release from this trap signals the same: a new phase of influence, purpose, and unshakable spiritual clarity. And here is the most satisfying part of all. They tried to write your ending, but in doing so, they have now authored their own downfall. Galatians 6:9 reminds us, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up." You did not give up, and now your harvest of protection, elevation, and spiritual victory is beginning to manifest. But now, chosen one, I must offer you this final counsel. Carry this knowledge with wisdom. As you move forward, not everyone who approaches you will do so with pure intentions. Not every invitation will be innocent. Not every reunion will be genuine. And this is not a cause for paranoia. It is a call to heightened discernment. Proverbs 4:23 advises us, "Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it." You're called to guard your heart, not to close it, but to protect its sacred power. Will you now walk with this balanced awareness? Will you trust your discernment even when others question it? Will you honor the spiritual authority you have earned through this battle? Because the truth is this: you have powerful enemies precisely because you have powerful purpose. The brighter your light, the more desperate the darkness becomes to extinguish it. But remember, the darkness has not and will not overcome you. Look to the example of Oprah Winfrey once more. Despite relentless attacks on her credibility and character, she rose. Her discernment sharpened, her influence expanded, her purpose unstoppable. The same destiny is unfolding for you now, chosen one. So step forward, not in fear, but in powerful wisdom. You are covered, you are protected, you are untouchable, not by your own strength, but by the one who walks with you. Beloved chosen one, take this to heart. The very qualities that made you a target, your light, your growth, your transformation, your spiritual authority, are exactly the qualities this world desperately needs more of. Do not dim them to make others comfortable. Do not shrink them in an attempt to avoid future attacks. You were born to disrupt darkness. You were anointed to stand tall in rooms where others whisper. You were chosen to shine in spaces where light is rare. So I urge you now, step fully into who you are becoming. Own your power with grace. Trust your discernment completely, for it is a shield forged by fire. And remember this simple truth: every attempt to break you down is nothing but living proof of how much you are rising up. You survived because you were meant to survive. You are protected because your presence is needed. You were targeted because you are powerful beyond measure. You are chosen because you are unbreakable. And your enemies will spend a lifetime learning this truth the hard way. And know this: your story does not end with this ritual of humiliation. No, this is the beginning of a new chapter. The ones who plotted against you have no idea what they've awakened. Welcome to the next level of your journey. The path ahead will be incredible, marked by even greater authority, sharper discernment, and a radiance that no shadow can contain. Before you go, I want to take a moment to thank each of you who has stood with this message, who has supported this channel and this mission. If you feel led and would like to sow back into this work through super thanks, it is deeply appreciated and helps us continue bringing these truths to the world. But whether you donate or not, know this: I am profoundly grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your energy, your engagement means more than you know. You are part of this chosen community, and I bless you for walking this journey with us. And now I speak a blessing over you. May divine protection surround you at every turn. May your discernment grow ever sharper. May your light shine even brighter in the face of darkness. May your purpose be unstoppable and your spirit unshakable. Walk forward boldly, chosen one. Your greatest victories are still ahead.